A trail of wreckage from an unidentified space shuttle crash crosses the United States. People are afraid and reluctant to touch the waste in case they contract the infection. The CDC's Tucker Kaufman arrives at the location that the authorities have labeled as a contaminated zone. There, he learns that the organism can both rapidly grow and tolerate extremely high radiation levels. As he walks away, he inadvertently comes into contact with some debris and gets contaminated. Tucker's dog meets him at the door when he gets home. However, the dog growls and turns away from him right away. Later, when he's sleeping, he starts to perspire a lot and develops an odd cellular condensation on his face. Then Carol, Tucker's ex-wife and a psychiatrist, is presented to us. Oliver, her kid, screams after a nightmare that night, but she consoles him and gives him a medication before he falls asleep. The following morning, Tucker gives Carol a call and demands to see his son. Carol hangs up. After dropping Oliver off at school, she meets Dr. Ben Driscoll, her best friend, who is taking her to the office in his car. Ben tells her that many scientists have quit because they think there was a plot behind the shuttle tragedy. After that, Carol tells him about Tucker's call and admits that he has never made a decent parent. Ben, however, persuades her that Tucker has a right to see his son just like she does. Carol finds one of her patients, Wendy, waiting for her when she gets to the office. Wendy lets Carol know that her spouse is acting oddly. She proceeds to add that her spouse even killed their dog and threw it out with the trash. Carol becomes aware of a problem. But before long, the mysterious epidemic that is changing people's behavior is revealed, and Carol, a psychiatrist in Washington, D.C., finds that the virus is extraterrestrial in origin. She has to fight to protect her son, who might be able to stop the invasion from getting worse. Will Carol be able to find a cure? You'll have to wait until the very end to find out. That night, Carol and her friend take their kids outside for Halloween. A dog attacks a youngster named Andy in the meantime, but he doesn't seem frightened. Rather, he squeezes the dog's mouth with just his bare hands. Carol feels that there must be a problem with Andy when she gets home because he seems to be aloof from everyone. Subsequently, she finds Oliver's hand with an odd patch of flesh on it and carefully puts it in a bag. The following day, Carol brings the skin sample to Ben's hospital, where Dr. Stephen Galliano, one of his colleagues, starts looking into it. Meanwhile, the nation is starting to see the spread of an enigmatic illness. Tucker is presenting the new vaccination and its potential to contain the infection during a news conference. Subsequently, we witness a few expressionless individuals spitting their saliva into the beverage that attendees of the conference will be served. While traveling to Tucker's residence, Carol and Oliver come into a woman who stops the car and begins pleading for assistance. She is struck by event abruptly, despite her constant threats of horrible things happening. When the police finally show there, Carol claims to have seen the collision and is prepared to make a statement. However, the policeman advises her to go and that they will phone her if they need her. Tucker gives Carol and Oliver a deadpan greeting when they get to his residence. Still, she drops Oliver off with his dad and heads to a party with Ben. Henry, a Czech diplomat, and his wife Ludmila are hosting the celebration. Yurish, a Russian diplomat, is shown to them. He engages Carol in discussion regarding the darker aspects of human nature. Ben and Carol share a brief kiss after the party, but Carol swiftly breaks it off since she doesn't want to jeopardize their friendship. Oliver reveals to his friend Jean that there is a problem with his father as they are hanging out in the interim. Tucker gives Oliver a hot chocolate made with his spit as soon as he enters the house. An identically expression census taker tries to break into Carol's house when she gets back. Fortunately, she defends herself by promptly closing the door and phoning Ben to come over. As Carol drives into her office the following morning, she observes a large number of people who are just standing motionless on the street and giving strange looks. She finds out that every patient has canceled their appointments for the day when she gets to the office. She starts searching the internet for instances comparable to hers after going through an unexplained sequence of occurrences. She learns that a lot of people are observing strange actions in the individuals around them all across the world. Even Carly, her secretary, behaves weird and offers her a cup of tea. However, Carol is distracted from her tea drinking when Ben calls. Afterwards, Stephen lets Carol know that he has finished examining the skin patch. What he discovered is that when a person goes into REM sleep, extremely hardy spores within it take over their body. In order to maintain normalcy, individuals who have contracted the infection should not sleep since the spores alter genetic expression when they enter the body. Ludmila, who is worried by Yorish's odd conduct, calls Ben in the meantime. There, Yorish lies on a bed covered in cellular condensation in Ludmila's residence. The three of them dash there. His attempt to attack Carol during her attempt to take a picture of him is cut short when he suddenly awakens. Ben saves Yorish, thank goodness, but not before he crawls on the ground, throws up a liquid, and passes away right away. When Carol notices this, she becomes worried for her kid and goes running to Tucker's house to locate him. Tucker is having a meeting with his co-workers when Carol gets to his house, and they are all glancing at her oddly. Tucker reassures her that Oliver is with his friend Jean, but she is not persuaded and continues to worrying about Oliver. While she begins packing Oliver's things, Tucker and his associates round her. He explains that she will become like them after contracting the infection, and that they are providing a more humane and better world. In order to spread the infection to her, he pins her to the ground and spits saliva on her. Carol is able to get away and makes her way to Jean's residence where his mother is deceased. She drives carelessly and causes an accident because she is in a panic. She rushes to the road in desperation to find her kid, but nobody answers her call. Oliver sends her a message saying that his father has taken him to a weird area as she gets into the metro. She glances about in the interim and observes strange behavior from the passengers. She is given advice by a fellow passenger on the train to pretend to be emotionless and peaceful in order to trick the infected. Abruptly, a handful of infected individuals board the train and begin attacking the passengers. She escapes the train in some way, trying to trick the infected by keeping a straight face. Carol later meets up with Ben and Stephen in Ludmila's residence, where they learn that the spores are dispersed by bodily fluids like blood. Since there is no way to determine if they are infected, they must stay awake. Ben chooses to go with Carol in her search for Oliver, while Stephen and his assistant intend to travel to Fort Detrick in order to locate a viral treatment. Henrik, meantime, brings a big group of infected people home with him, but before the infected can discover them, the group flees. Despite having slept, Wendy has not yet been infected, so Carol witnesses her being arrested by the cops on the street. She assumes Wendy is virus immune because of this. Ben and Carol then dash to her office to look at Wendy's medical records. It turns out that Wendy has an ailment called Adam that affects the brain and helps people become immune by stopping the spore from taking over the brain matter. When Carol discovers that her kid also has the same condition, she starts to question if he is immune to the virus. Ben gets a call from Stephen at that precise moment, letting him know that he has arrived at Fort Detrick and is currently collaborating with other scientists to discover a virus treatment. Oliver texts Carol, in the meantime, informing her that he is being kept at his grandmother's Baltimore home. When she tells Ben that she is infected, he tells her not to sleep and tells her everything will work out. They then head outside and separate ways. Carol keeps her face neutral and makes it to the train station. She encounters Jean, who has contracted the virus, on the train. Jean informs her that Tucker is his living partner and that he is en route to his home because his parents have passed away. Tucker meets them at the station when they get to Baltimore. He heads outside after receiving a call from his colleagues that evening. Carol seizes the chance, looks around the house, and eventually finds her kid. Oliver assures her that even though he sleeps every day, he is still uninfected. Jean unexpectedly appears and apprehends them, but Carol knocks him aside, unconsciousing him, and makes off with Oliver. As they leave, Tucker and his associates begin to pursue them. Although they are able to hide in a cellar, Tucker finds them and makes an effort to hurt them. Carol, on the other hand, kills him by striking him in the skull with an iron rod. After that, Carol and Oliver go to a drugstore where Carol gets some medicines to keep her awake. In case she nods off, she gives Oliver an injection to administer to her. Then she gives Ben a call and lets him know where she is. She finds a room full of infected people in the interim and takes a revolver from one of them. However, the affected room's occupants quickly wake up and keep knocking on the door to let themselves go. Oliver is woken up by this, and he injects his mother to wake her up as well after realizing she has fallen asleep. When Ben eventually shows there after a while, he is also affected. Similar to Tucker, he also makes an effort to convince Carol to accept the new society that is free of violence, crime, and conflict. Ben says quite frankly that those with immunity like Oliver have no place in our world. The infected individuals try to approach Oliver after he opens the door, but Oliver shoots them all to death. She even shoots Ben in the leg in her desperation to get away from the situation. Oliver and Carol jump into a car and leave as a gang of infected individuals tries to get in. Oliver answers a call from Steven that she receives. He tells Steven where they are while his mother is operating the vehicle. Then Steven tells her to climb to the top of a building so he can take a helicopter to bring them up. They battle their way to the building's roof, where they are pursued by a throng of infected individuals. At last, a chopper arrives to retrieve them and transport them to the hospital. A year has passed, a vaccine has been created, drugs are available everywhere, and the alien virus has been completely destroyed. According to Steven, a major contributor to the vaccine's development, infected individuals don't remember ever being sick. And lastly, as planned, Carol and Ben have moved in together and are now living with Oliver and Jean, and the movie ends here. To ensure you never miss any updates on new videos, kindly click the bell icon, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.